Yeah.
Hello. Mine worked. Does mine?
Yeah.
Can't tell. Now I understand.
Yes.
Because from back there, you can tell when they're on and when they're off. I can't tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't tell when you're
That's
sitting
why when
right
you
in front
talk
of
like
it
this,
very
you
well.
don't know that you're further away. So yeah, it's a little inconvenient.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Everybody got their mics on?
Yes.
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 I'm going to call to order the City of Rhinelander Organizational and Special Council agenda. It's Tuesday, April 21st at 6 p.m. We are at City Hall. The agenda's been posted. The media has been notified. At this point, we will call roll after the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Val, I'll have you call roll before we do the ceremonial oath of office for the newly elected alderpersons.
Barnett,
Here?
Larson,
Here.
Mikulowski,
Here.
Kelly, Anderson,
Here.
Holt,
Here?
Daniel,
Here.
Rossing,
Here.
Mayor Frederickson.
Here. All right. So, Val, I'll let you call them up one at a time. We will start with District 7, Eileen.
You would raise your right hand, please, and you have to do a say I will. I, Eileen Daniel, having been elected to the position of District 7 alderperson for the City of Rhinelander, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and the Municipal Code of the City of Rhinelander, and will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability, so help me God. I will. Very good. Thank you and congratulations.
Gerald, representing District 5.
That's the clock.
Raise your right hand, please. I, Gerald Anderson, having been elected to the position of District 5 alderperson for the City of Rhinelander, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and the Municipal Code of the City of Rhinelander, and will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability, so help me God. Thank you and welcome. Congratulations.
Carrie, representing District 3.
I, Carrie Mikulowski, having been elected to the position of District 3 alderperson for the City of Rhinelander, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and the Municipal Code of the City of Rhinelander, and will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability, so help me God. Thank you and congratulations.
Tom, District 1.
I, Thomas Barnett, having been elected to the position of District 1 alderperson for the City of Rhinelander, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin, and the Municipal Code of the City of Rhinelander, and will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of said office to the best of my abilities, so help me God. I will. Very good, and congratulations.
All right. Thank you. Yeah. And welcome. Next on the agenda is the election of the president of the council. I will accept nominations at this point.
I will nominate Dave Holt.
I'll second the nomination.
I will nominate Ryan Rossing.
Mikulowski, second.
Any other nominations? All right, at this point, what we do is, this is the only vote that can be secret ballot, but we can also do it out loud, where we basically just call your name and then with a roll call, and you would, say who you vote for. If you feel uncomfortable with that, you can debate at this point, and we can do it by ballot or out loud. It's an option. So, any discussion with that? Tom, you want ballot?
Ballot, yeah.
That's agreed upon. Okay, we will do it by ballot. It's not a raffle.
All right, yes, everybody's in? That's right.
Thank you. We're starting to gamble with the city's money. Anybody out there getting nervous?
It's been a long day. That's how we pick the names in the order on the ballots.
They could leg wrestle for it.
You have, does anybody have a quarter?
I don't,
Can they do rock, paper, scissors?
Now I can
I'm
draw.
in favor of a quarter, but I don't know if any kind of wrestling would do justice here.
Old-fashioned duel?
Generally, what your procedure would be is that you would take at least one more ballot, and if it comes out tied again, then under the state rules of breaking, and I'll look it up further in the next 2 seconds, but really you should take at least one more ballot, knowing that it's tied, and people can do what they want. That's, would be the appropriate, because the mayor cannot break the tie. He's not a part of the body.
Could I ask a question to Steve? Is it possible, since we've got two nominees here, is it possible for the two of us to discuss this for one-on-one, or is that not appropriate?
I don't think so.
Well, you could take a, mayor could have a short recess in the meeting, and you guys could talk, or campaign or whatever you want to do. But there's no prohibition against you talking to each other. But I'm telling you, the appropriate, if this was in the United States Congress, for example, they would keep voting until the vote came out with somebody winning.
Okay.
But this isn't the United States Congress, there are not 365 of you, so
Tom?
Okay, on our, a few years ago, we had a tie for a county board seat, and the county board seat was determined by a toss of a coin.
that's what we'll do.
And we can do that at,
If this one doesn't go, I think you probably need to, but David, if you and, whoever, Ryan? Yeah, if the two of you want to go talk for a second, you certainly can.
It's permissible. Go ahead. You can leave the area too, so it's not out loud.
Do you want to do that? No, I was just a suggestion. If you don't want to do that, that's,
Yeah, no, perfectly. Yeah. It's still, yeah.
this is not clear. Should be up to us.
what I'm gonna ask them to do though is just come in and vote appropriately. You know, if they discuss it, they should be the difference in the vote.
It's up to the council.
Correct. And it still will be because they're part of the council. It's just one will concede to the other after their conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it'll still be up to the council vote. So if you change your vote now, you're messing with stuff again. But that, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just explaining the possible outcome if you're gonna mess with us.
This was supposed to be a short meeting.
I know. I'd never, ever imagined I would be the tie, like, if there was a tie-breaking vote again on the very first vote. Yeah. Thank you.
While they're out talking, just give you a couple pieces of information that those two already know. If you haven't already received your email address, everybody has, that's what they want. If you have not already received your email address, everybody has, the new councilmen have a brand-new email address that's using your name. The old council still has just your district. Tara and I talked about this, and what we're attempting to do is to be able to put each of your email correspondence into folders, and by using your name, it doesn't go back into the old folder of the old person from District 1 or District 3 or District 5 or District 7. So the good news is you won't be blended with anybody else that's been in your district. The other thing that I really want everyone to understand is, because this came up, that email belongs to the city. It doesn't belong to you personally. And if somebody comes in on an open records request, we generally, subject to attorney-client privilege and other privilege or confidentiality rules, we have to turn all that over. So for the new alderpersons, be very, very careful about what you say and what you do with those email addresses. You can obviously have your own personal email address, but be really careful if you do any city business on your own personal email address, you've suddenly exposed your personal email to an open records request. And that's what I find a lot of individuals don't think about, and they use their personal and they send a note to the mayor saying, can't we discuss this at the next meeting? Well, what that's done is open up all your personal email to somebody wanting to have an open records request. Now, we may be able to keep 85% of it out of there, but it would mean that someone here at the city would have to go through your personal email and say, no, that one's not appropriate, and that one's not. And I'm sure there's things in some people's personal email you'd rather not have Val or I look at. And I know we don't want to look at it. It gets very expensive. So please use your district email for communicating everything with the city, and use your personal email for personal. Don't combine the two if you can help it. And be very careful about what you do and say in those emails, because they can be misconstrued. And oftentimes it gets into issues. The other thing for the new alderpersons, I would recommend that some of you maybe know this, and if I'm being repetitive, I'm just trying to kill time, is that you have to be very cognizant of what we call walking quorums, or in other words, if more than 3 of you get together, so 4 or more are together at any time, there's a concept that if a subsequent vote would take place or a subsequent action would take place in the body relative to what the 4 of you were talking about at the ball game or at the ice cream shop, that could be considered a walking quorum. So all of you can get together, and all of you can sit around and chit-chat about, how beautiful the city is, we should get rid of the hodag. I don't care what you talk about. It's if you're going to talk about city business, that's when you kind of put up your hand and say,
No, there's too many of us, we're not gonna do that. Now, the other thing you have to do is you can't play telephone tag either. You can't say, I'll call you if you'll call the next one, if you'll call the next one, if you'll call the next one. Sometimes called telephone tag quorum. So that's out there. It's just some legal advice that I like to give to new alder persons so that they don't have a problem. Are we ready, Mayor? Any questions on those comments? I just really want to emphasize that a lot. The other thing I'm going to tell you that fits right in that is don't use your personal telephone to text. Because the minute you use your personal telephone to text the city, you've just opened up your personal telephone to somebody being able to subpoena that phone. I mean, for example, I carry 2 phones with me all the time. One is my personal phone, one is my business phone. Because as an attorney, I'm super conscious of that. But I think you have to start getting conscious of that also. And don't let people talk you into using that as a tool. Social media can be really hard. Okay, I turn this back to the mayor.
Yeah, I do have a question now. No, not on the mic. So. All right, once again, write down your vote. It's on, just so you understand. That's what happened, you used the same pen, messed everything up. Yep.
I now have 5 votes for Rossing and 3 votes for Holt.
Okay, congratulations. Our new council president will be Ryan Rossi. All right, next. Mayoral appointment of council and citizen commissions. What I handed out to you was the current in red are the openings. That being the case, 2 years ago when we did this, I reached out to the new council members as a new mayor. We had to do it in the back room because I didn't even have an office yet to try to figure out where to put people on, where they felt appropriate, what they wanted to do or anything else. I'm not going to do that this time, plus we have COVID, so there's, safety reasons. We're going to do it by phone call. What I did was handed you the list so that you can feel comfortable with the things you would like to work on, and then call me. All right? Make sense? Okay, so that being the case, we did have a few of them that we can take care of today. And based on the position that's there, I will ask for you to accept my appointment with a motion in a second, and then it'll be voted on each one. The Zoning Board of Appeals, the citizen appointments, all would like to remain. So I'm going to appoint them again in the Zoning Board of Appeals. I would take a motion to accept that appointment.
I would like to make a motion to accept all 4 citizens to remain on the zoning board of appeals.
Larson, second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. We will need 2 alder positions on there. That's in check and in question, because right now, that's our ordinance that says that we have 2 alder persons on it. It is best practices in this state that actually alder persons are not on it. So even being that case, it's basically that the Board of Appeals, it takes people's appeals, but then it would come to council for a second and final decision. So it's not good form as it stands to have somebody on there. So we can discuss that for an agenda item to remove it, if that's such the case. So that's why we didn't fill that one. The Board of Review, Steve Sauer would like to take a citizen position, and we will still need 2 alder persons on it. And then Keith Young will be reappointed, and myself. I will accept the motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the board of, is this a board of review?
Board of Review.
Citizen appointments as presented.
Second.
Thank you. That was Gerald. There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor? I really think that one thing I'm going to have to say is since no one is here to see what is on these lists, and you've got people watching, rather than saying
I see.
everybody on
Gotcha.
the list, I don't think it's
Absolutely,
fair to
because we're
your...
live streaming.
I
I apologize.
I know you don't
to-
want to read all those names, but
I will.
you really should.
Yep, absolutely. We're going to back up. This is just for the necessity at this point. The Zoning Board of Appeals is Brian Seidel, Steve Schreier, Christian King, and Josh Kunzman that'll be reappointed. And that passed unanimously. The Board of Review, Steve Sauer will be a citizen appointee. Keith Young will be receiving his reappointment, and myself. Any further discussion? Did we get a motion? Well, yeah, Gerald's a second. No further discussion?
I have a question. So it says you need 2 alders, but then Tom Kelly's also on there.
Yeah, Tom Kelly will still fill out his obligation, so that there's still another.
So there'll be 3 altogether alder people on
Correct.
there? Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. On Planning Commission, we will need 1 alder spot. The other one for reappointment is Sandra Bergman. I will take a motion.
I'll make a motion to keep Sandra Bergman as the citizen representative.
I second that.
That was Gerald with the second. And any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. There's a couple people we didn't reach out to. Yes.
Just as a reminder, when you make a second, if you could say your last name for Val.
Okay. Yeah.
Especially with all of the new voices and faces.
Yeah.
It helps me out greatly, so thank you. I appreciate it in advance.
And I can't read her anymore because she's right behind me to know if she's on task and knows, or she was looking down or whatever. The Joint Library District Board, Tom Kelly will be reappointed, and that's it. So I'll accept that motion. There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Pioneer Park Historical Museum Complex needs to be discussed, just because there's people on there that are vacant. They were representatives specific to a part of that museum complex. So I need to search out who still has both attachment and desire to fill those as far as that position is considered. Historical Preservation, too, will need a new alder, and I did not reach out to those group at this point to reappoint. So that will also happen by Monday. Also, I would really like to have that discussion with the alder persons. If you see parts or things that you really desire to take part in, and then you might get a call from me for things you don't have such a desire, but I'm going to ask you to take part in if we need to fill them. Eileen?
Under economic development,
Correct. There,
number 3, you still have Steve Sauer as alderperson?
yes, there is no economic development at this
Oh,
point.
okay.
Yes, that's
Well, that-
part of the reason. The CDBG housing, as you're looking at this list, is an old list of some that were functioning, some that even bike pedestrian as I took over. It virtually took the case of 2 or 3 meetings to turn around and move it on to the planning commission. So the planning commission absorbed some of that. That doesn't mean it wouldn't be brought back if there was a specific question for it. They are the active members, and then we would go from there. That one, as you can tell, does not have a reappointment date. There was never one set. So that's why there's some uniqueness to certain committees you've seen are suspended for the time being. Once again, it's left up, and I'm going to ask for you to consider for the next meeting too, under future agenda items, is whether or not you'd bring back committees or function this way for X amount of months with the idea of whether or not you'd bring back those committee meetings, because that's the way it was left at those, and I want to say December's meeting, and I don't know if that's correct, but was that committees were to remain abolished until the new council takes its seat and decides. I want to give you that opportunity to, to actually put some thought and whatever into that. Okay? So that covers the appointments at this point. Mayor's comments. And basically, this is a little bit of out of order. And basically, it's comments by citizens that we received in the future. And when you guys have comments that you receive from your constituents or whatever, you can bring them forth to the packet. If you print the email and or otherwise, you can actually speak for them. We like to have their name and where they're from recognized so that people understand that these are positions of people that are city that we're representing. Doesn't mean you can't take other comments. Other comments are fine, but then we understand that they're not in our city. And this is because there's business that needs to be done by the city for those also. What I received today, and it was kind of fun because it actually happened after the 3 o'clock meeting, was Rhinelander City Council meetings live streaming. I got this email. It says it was at 4:50 p.m., so it was longer than that. Mr. Mayor, today I watched the 3 p.m. City Council live stream meeting. I also reviewed the April 2nd meeting streams. As a Rhinelander City resident, I find this to be a very effective method for residents to watch and stay informed on City Council discussions. I would suggest that this be considered a new normal to continue even after the COVID restrictions are lifted. Thank you for your consideration. Stay safe, and then didn't sign it. But the reason I wanted to put that out there is one, it really makes us accessible to our constituents, to our city, even with almost a dialogue because they can email you. I mean, so it does work that way. So then that was the communication, which I already broke my own rule where I didn't have the person's name, but they did identify as a city resident. Anyway, miscellaneous business and future agenda requests. Discussion of future meetings by electronic means. And I might actually ask Steve to reoccupy his leased doorway. Steve would be the 11th person in the room, therefore he's not in the room. Well, now he is. But anyway, electronic means Zoom. If the COVID gets worse, this is deemed safe as far as I'm concerned, as far as the governor's concerned right now. It's 10 people in a room, at least 6 feet apart, in distance. Given if the outbreak got worse or if there was more of a clampdown, how would we keep business going? That's the reason why we would discuss the electronic methods. I'm going to turn the table over to Steve right now for his suggestions.
Yeah, we worked last week, anticipated we may want to do a Zoom meeting. We actually, Jim is in the back, we tried a Zoom meeting called Rhinelander Zoom, and I set up a dummy account called Rhinelander Meeting Zoom, and I had like 6 or 7 of my associates who are all at home in various locations of the state of Wisconsin. So we really tried it out on a pretty rough platform, so to speak. I was sitting in Leona, Wisconsin, which, if you can believe it has internet, it does. But I had people in Milwaukee, Waukesha, Madison, Ripon, Wisconsin, Oshkosh, Wisconsin. So we did a Zoom to see how it worked. And we did a private Zoom, which means that we could control the speakers and when they were talking and how they were talking, so that you didn't have anybody. You've heard a lot of comments about how people can interfere with Zoom conversations, how they can hack in and they can do things. Well, effectively, you can't do that if you password and protect the dial-in, so to speak, and if you also provide a system whereby the person who's presiding can press a button and basically cut off that person and mute their speaker. So we tried it out, it worked, and it worked well. And the good news is, the reason we had Jim is because we took that Zoom feed, we fed it to their system, and then their system live streamed it out. And the test was good, if you can tell me that's correct. At least he's shaking his head, so the general public that's watching knows that. So we know that we can do this exact same live streaming through a Zoom. What will happen is there will be 10 little pictures. The 8 of you, the mayor, Val, or maybe 11, because maybe myself, maybe we'll even bring the chief in. So there'll be 12 little pictures, and the mayor will be the host, and he will bring people on as, you raise your hand, or there's other ways you can do it. But we will effectively be able to run a meeting if that's what you choose to do. Now, you don't have to choose to do that. I just want you to know that we do have the technology available. The only thing that we don't have available, the city would have to consider, is if there's any of you that do not have a laptop computer that has a camera on it. I'm using Chris's right in front of you because it has both a camera and a microphone built into that system. If you don't have that, you can also have an Android or an Apple phone. You can put Zoom on any type of smartphone, and on the smartphone, the picture is going to get a lot smaller, but it doesn't matter because your picture will be just as big as anyone else's on the screen, but you can use a smartphone instead of a computerized laptop. If you have a hard or a desktop computer, and the desktop computer does not have a microphone or it does not have a camera, they're relatively inexpensive, and we could, as a city, if somebody said, I've got a computer system, but I don't have a laptop, I don't have a camera, we could probably put together a camera and a microphone for you. As you can see, we have microphones. That's not a great big issue. But cameras, I've got a couple myself, and I'm sure we could get some that would allow you to put a camera, and you just set the camera right on your table or your desk by your computer, and you just look into that. I teach class, I'm sure you do, David, too, but I'm teaching class now on Zoom, and I'm doing it with a camera and with microphones because I want 3 screens in front of me that I can make screens live and stuff. But that's way too complicated for what we're trying to do here. We're just trying to run a meeting here. So it can be done, and we have enough expertise to do it. The last council voted not to have meetings which were call-in or which were Zoom. You're a new council, so you can decide if you want to do it. We also do have a contract for having every one of our meetings from this point forward made available on live streaming, but you haven't voted on that yet, so right now it's just on the goodwill of...
No, we did vote on it. It passed to June 1st.
Oh,
June
yeah, that's right.
1st.
For council
Yes, it
meetings
did.
to be
The
live
resolution
streamed.
passed
Yeah,
till
I
June
take that
1st.
back.
Yes.
Apologize. Sorry, Jim.
Yeah.
I scared you. There is a signed contract.
Yeah.
It's been a long day.
Yeah.
Any questions anybody has, I can answer them.
Now, Eileen.
I think my only concern then would be any need for closed session, and it would be the same concerns we had with phone calls, in that you don't know who else could be in the room with someone, in the house with someone, while you're conducting the closed session business. I understand you could turn off the live stream, and then it would be limited to the folks in the Zoom room. But what is everyone else's thoughts on that, as far as the similarities between a phone call and something else that would happen from home, which is the Zoom.
The beauty of the council is every council can suspend rules or change rules, even based on circumstance, that allows that decision to be there. The uniqueness of the COVID is, otherwise I'm left to, when council's not in session, I'm council. So I have to make that decision. So even when it came to this last time, in finding out if it was secure, and then if we can manage a meeting with muting people, what does that do to your rights or your constituents' rights if I mute you and then move on to the next? So those were the concerns. But at the same time, as a council, if we came to that conclusion that, yes, we are acceptable of this, you will have 30 seconds to talk. I mean, whatever the rules you come up with as a council at that point is there. Now, I can make those right now if I needed to. I would prefer our council to take action on its own to make those rules available that they find acceptable if this was to get worse or if we weren't able to do this. I find right now what we're doing acceptable. It's somewhat hard. We'll talk about department heads coming in and giving reports or information. They have a lot of valuable information I'm not gonna be able to give you. I can say I was at the meeting, yeah, we should do this. That's not nearly what you deserve as a council. That being the case, as we move forward, if we had a Zoom, could we have that department head on that Zoom? Yes. So there's more options available to us with information with that Zoom. Once again, this is your decision to make with it, if you want to set up parameters. Once again, we have a council meeting Monday, and as of this point, I can't imagine we'll hit critical or anything strange is going to happen, but given the projections prior, we had to start making these things possible. We had to start thinking ahead to say, okay, you know what, we need to be able to figure out how to do this. So that being the case, I would ask for those amendments or those parts too, to say, after 30 seconds, the chair can silence if you don't get out what you need to talk about, because it's gonna happen probably. And that being the case, I don't want people upset that there was no rule and I just silenced them. Tom?
Barnett, I agree with Alderperson Daniel that there's a lot of risk involved in closed session on Zoom. I'm very comfortable with Zoom. I use Zoom all the time for all my clients, for what I do for a living. And it is a great, great tool, especially if we have to do that for a meeting like this. But I am very leery about other people being off camera in the room during a closed session. That being said, if there's a way to address that, then 100% Zoom, I'm all for it. But there has to be something to take away that fear, because even if we all trust each other that there'd be nobody else in the room, we have to worry about everybody watching, you know, thinking, what if there's someone in the room? They're going to have those same fears.
Correct.
And rightfully so. So I would like to have a discussion on it. What are the options, and what do we do if we need to go into closed session? Do we just postpone closed sessions? I mean, what can be done?
Yeah, there's three things that we've talked about as a government group of lawyers, and one is you have a camera or you have a phone and you just show the room. Mm-hmm. Then everybody in the world knows there's nobody in the room. Now, of course, there's doorways and, you know, but generally, if you keep your mic on, you're going to hear somebody walk into the room. So you can show there's nobody in the room. Mm-hmm. So that's one way of doing that. The second, and probably the easiest way to do it, is any meetings that are closed session would be here and in person. The only problem you would run into there is if one of us, not so much me, because I could appear, but would you allow one person who maybe is in quarantine because they've been exposed or something to appear Zoom and 9 of the rest of you in the room because of an extraordinary circumstance. So those are really the three alternatives. One, you do everybody Zooming. Two, you do everybody in a room, and if you're sick and you can't make it, then too bad, so sad. Or three, you do allow someone, and you really put that as your last resort, where you can show there's nobody in the room, and then that tells the public too that you've done your security check.
Ryan raised his hand to him. But even before that, just for the new members, This is Steve Sorensen, he's our city attorney, and real briefly give some of the history background, how many years you've worked in it, what you've done, so that they understand that when that perspective comes out, it's not coming out from, well, today, this time, whatever, it's okay, over 40 years, I've watched this amount of work. But go ahead and give me your resume real quick, come on, man.
I was born in a small town. No, no, I've done municipal work for 40, I don't want to say how old I am. Actually, since 1977, if you want to go back that far. But I've been city attorney, I've been on the county board, I've been a village attorney, I've been a town attorney for several municipalities. I serve on the government lawyers group for the State Bar of Wisconsin. I've served on that committee for about 38 years. I think some of you know I was president of the State Bar of Wisconsin. I was president of the National Association of Lawyers. So, I mean, my background is pretty broad, but my government background is extensive. Now, the other thing that's good is I also have 22 lawyers that are in my firm who all do government work. And some of them have been here in the Rhinelander community. Some have provided legal services to Oneida County. Some have provided legal services in the past to the city of Rhinelander. We provide legal services throughout the state. The reason that I came or wanted to come up here, I guess, is because I do have a home in Leona, Wisconsin, and I have been coming to Rhinelander for, now you really will know all that, over 65 years, let's put it that way. My uncle was the conservation warden in Forest County and Vilas County for 36 years, and he just turned 94 the other day, and we live on the lake across from him. So this is a stomping ground. I mean, I can go back to DeBiles when there was just a little road 8 that led into town. So anyway, that's my background. So yeah, I'm not talking a void that I haven't had experience. I have.
Ryan,
Yeah, I just was gonna say that if we are
speak a little closer, Mike, that's okay.
concerned about that, we got a lot of rooms in city hall. Everybody bring their device here and sit in a different room. That way we know that it's secure, nobody else is gonna hear it if everybody is that concerned. But, Tom makes a good point, that, yeah, you just never know that, who's listening, so.
David?
I think that's a great idea.
That's okay.
There we go. I think that's a great idea, that there are a lot of rooms here. Additionally, one of my thoughts was, with the idea of showing the camera around the room, if you situate the individual with the door to the room behind them, then we know if the door opens. So that's an additional level of security, I think, especially if we're using headsets, which I think is something that Steve pointed out to me, or maybe in an email. Then you don't have the volume going into other rooms. So it sounds like we've got a few options that we can work on should that arise.
Excellent. The reason this is sorry, Chair.
I just want to say I have a wife who thinks retirement is for travel and has snowbird tendencies, likes to spend at least a month each winter somewhere else south. And so I'd like to keep open the idea of some kind of remote participation, whatever way we can work that out.
Okay. It was left in here as discussion. I guess what I would like you to do too is, at this point, obviously, it still goes back to me if it had to happen, so that's okay. But the reason I put it here was so that you can definitely email me with thoughts, concerns, and or otherwise, so that if we don't have direct direction from the council, we don't come up with a motion on Monday or Tuesday or whatever, you still understand that you can talk to me and then we'll put it together the best way we can. That was, I mean, this came up and as it was a concern here in the last week or two, it was definite as it's an option. Okay, do we move forward? How fast do we move forward? Is the business worth moving forward for or not? So now it's on the radar for you as council to figure it out. I know Tom and I already talked about it, the solution as far as what he would like, so that's pretty good. And if he has more thoughts, once again, just reach out and we'll move in that direction. Or come as Monday with an idea, we can list it as an agenda item and we can move forward with something solid if that's what you prefer. But that would be just requesting Val or myself as a agenda item that you want it. Next on it, the request by councilperson Eileen Daniel. We'll have some confusion with that just because Daniel being the city administrator and then councilperson Daniel, anyway. Request this to be placed on our agenda, so it's on our map for next agenda action, and it's in the back of your packet, and there's not much of a packet here, but it's a consideration of a request from the United of Amen for fair maps. It begins on page 2, carries through 3.
There actually should be,
Oh, no, there's 2 parts.
yeah.
You're correct. Did you want to speak on this before we,
I just kind of wanted to introduce it. One of my constituents came to me. He was very active in getting this on the ballot and wanted to make sure that the city recognized. Hi, Tom. Recognized that there was overwhelming support for both of these issues that were on the ballot, both for fair maps and the dissolution of Citizens United, so.
all right. So that will be moved forward to the next agenda as a possibility. You have it now, so you can prepare for it. As that brings us to the end of the agenda, we are adjourned. Turn off your.